They were stars, among the best players in what was fast becoming the world's greatest league.
The way that they excelled showed that no amount of adversity was going to stop them from becoming the best in the business.
The right finish! Spectacular goal by Ian Wright!
I call them almost like the middle generation of footballers. It didn't matter where they were, it was what they were doing, you know.
Now Yeboah with a chance! Oh, a stunning goal!
They didn't tiptoe, they exploded onto the scene. The mould had been broken.
Hollymore closing in!
There's always been fight. There's always been this, you know, never say die attitude.
Keep on!
Yeah, I could play a bit too.
Together, they laid a path for the players that followed.
Did I believe I'd become a role model? Not at all.
There's so much that those guys would have had to have overcome.
Just me. Then when the team's not playing well, the fans started to boo me. That was a difficult time for me.
They'd grown up in a country that could be hostile. Inspiration came from the trailblazers, who showed it could be done.
I will always take my hat off to the generation who went before me. I know how much hard work they put in for people like me.
Back in the 70s and 80s, the abuse was horrendous.
What they went through, I know, hand on heart, I couldn't have done it.
They would have faced the worst of language, stadiums full of people that hated them. Bananas became obviously synonymous with black people. You know, you're a monkey, there's a banana.
Regardless of whether bananas came on the field with me or racial abuse or whatever, I felt much stronger about as I'm looking into the crowd and I saw black fans who were racially abused. That I felt was wrong, and that we had to deal with, and even now we have to deal with that situation.
I kind of remember to go back to my childhood as a kid, you know, and I used to hang around with all these lads on the corner street. And there used to be a gang called Beckingtree Youth Boys, and they were a bit older than us. They used to drive past in their cars and shout racial abuse at us every night. Every night they used to do it for up to about 2 years. And that's when I was 13, 14, so I kind of had experienced that. I'm married a white girl. I was been with my wife Claire since I was 17, you know. I met her when I was at West Ham. It wasn't known in the 80s or, you know, to see a black person with a white person.
I'm sure any black player my age and older than me will tell you about banter in the dressing room.
I remember when a certain individual tried to name me Chalky, and I mean, to this day I think he's still waiting for me to answer him, because I don't answer to Chalky. I don't accept nonsense like that.
It was so strange when we used to have an argument with players, and not just in training, but in matches, and you have a running battle with this player and he's white. Then all of a sudden, he goes, and he doesn't say anything. I don't know what he wants to say.
You know, I experienced racism, you know, in my early times at West Ham. You know, I remember, you know, we went away at some team and we were 4-0 down and just walking up down the sidelines, and there was like hurling abuse, you know, coins, bananas, and you know, for a 19-year-old kid, you know, 18-year-old kid, 19, that's pretty like harrowing, you know. To experience it was frightening.
Time for a whole new ball game.
People talk about the 90s and that as glory years. In fact, you know, the Premier League being born and this whole new era of exciting products meant that, do we have to talk about racism anymore? Is it really a thing?
It was about everything was great and everything was perfect, you know, but it wasn't perfect to the black players who were playing, you know, in their teams, and we were still, you know, experiencing that racial stuff.
So I think, if you want me to be honest, racism was swept under the carpet, because if you want to talk to those players, they will tell you that, oh, we're still having experiences. Things were still happening. It's
not an issue for me to deal with it from the stands, you know, but when a professional player says it, you know what I mean, a white player, then it kind of, you know, irates me. I always had this issue. If they said anything about your colour or about your wife, you know, it's going off in the tunnel. That was it. That was it. Honestly, that was it, Patrick. That was the only two things that kind of riled me. And there was plenty of times where that did happen in the early 90s.
Despite the odds and the abuse, black players continued to smash through barriers, starting with John Barnes, who became the first black player to establish himself at the club that had been English football's dominant force.
I'm thrust into the limelight now, whereby I'm the first black player to play regularly for Liverpool, so all eyes are going to be on me. But I felt confident enough in my ability, my footballing ability, my teammates, the environment that Liverpool gave me to then show what I can do.
Do you know the first time the British transfer record was broken for a black footballer? Do you know who the player was?
No, I didn't know till today.
Yeah, Andy Cole, Newcastle to Man United.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, that's something I should be very proud of.
June the 9th, 1993 is an important day in our country's history. Why?
Was I captain of England?
Pretend not to know.
I don't actually know the date, but I'm glad you've reminded me. For me to have that armband, and you're like a little kid again, and you're just so excited, your stomach's bubbling and all that lot, and you just, wow, really? Are you sure? And it was probably more so, not maybe that time, but maybe the Rome game, in Italy, when I was captain and Glenn made me captain. It was only then when I got back home, and I must have had, honestly, Patrick, a sack full of letters, just from people all over the place, all over the world. That kind of hit home to me how much it meant for them that I was a black England captain, and that showed to me how much, I'm proud to be the first black England captain.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
1995, and one of the most infamous moments in Premier League history. Abuse from the stands came properly under the spotlight for the first time.
Yeah, at the time it was scary and it wasn't right. But he only did something that everyone else wanted to do, or would have loved to have done it.
It took someone like Eric to actually say, enough's enough. I can't handle this no more.
I'm probably happy that it was a white Frenchman that took the stance more than any black player.
Why?
I think they would have been dealt with differently.
Harsher?
Yeah, I think that they would have. I'm wondering if they would have still been allowed in the game.
When I retired, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying to me, right, come on, Cody, get yourself in and do your coaching badges. And I was saying to myself, nah, it's not for me. I didn't think there was going to be an opportunity for black managers to be given that chance to manage at the elite level. I'm not prepared to jump through hoops for nobody.
Many black players have looked to make the move into management, but still, in 2020, there has been just 2 permanent English-born black managers in the top division.
How much does it mean then to be the first black manager in the Premier League?
The fact that I'm in the Premier League, whether I'm black, white, or doesn't really kind of really matters. I'm proud of where I come from, but I'm just proud to be back in the Premiership. We're not saying we should have the job because we're black. We're just saying give us a chance to sit down in front of you guys, and explain how we look at this club and how we want to take it forward. That's not even happening.
The game doesn't trust them. Why are we not on the merry-go-round? Because there is a merry-go-round of managers. Why are we not on that merry-go-round?
We have a perception on different groups of people's ability, and what has been the perception for hundreds of years about a black man's ability to think, a woman's ability to lead a Fortune 500 company, be a CEO, and somebody who's gay's ability to go to war and fight because of what we have been wrongly told about them. And that is what we have to change.
We just want to feel that we're equal to everyone else. Hopefully in the next 2, 3, 4 years we'll be seeing that. We'll be seeing some light at the end of the tunnel.
And so in football and society, huge challenges remain. But on the pitch, talent continues to flourish. Standing on the shoulders of giants, brilliant black footballers have made their mark and changed English football for the better.
For black players to excel at the highest level, it's nice. It's nice to see.
We have a voice now, and that's the most important thing.
You can look at a League 2 team in the middle of nowhere where you never found a black man. You've got 6 black players playing. And that is a big difference.
I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about my son Thomas. He's definitely in a better place. That's the great thing. We're pioneers to hopefully pave the way for these black players where it gets less and less racially abused every time they go step on the football pitch.
This generation of your Sterlings, your Rashfords, your Jadon Sanchos, I could go on. There's so many talented figures out there now. Our young players are saying to the world, we're ready, we want to play. We can see the stage and we want to dance on it.
We have come a long way, you know, but we've still got a long, long way to go.
The journey now is just as long as how far we've come. So we have to acknowledge the good work that's been done, but let's not rest on our laurels.